So I explained all of this in my January book recommendations video, but I'll give you a little recap. Basically, I made a Goodreads account. I'm trying to read 52 books this year, and each month I am going to do a little mini review of the books I read that month. But since I didn't start this in January, I'm starting it in March. I'm doing quick January and February videos in March so that at the end of March I can start doing monthly book recommendation videos. Okay, that's your summary. I'll link to the January video in the description so you can see the longer version of that explanation and the books I read in January. And now I'm going to talk about the books I read in February. So I don't actually have any of the February books with me because they were all library books and I have since returned them to the library, but I will just sort of insert photos of the books I'm talking about so you can see the beautiful covers of these books. So the first two books I read in February were the second and third books in the Grisha trilogy. Insert covers here. The second book is called Siege and Storm, and the third book is called Ruin and Rising. They're both by Leigh Bardugo. I talked about the Grisha books in my January video, but essentially there are two books called Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, which I read back in 2016 and really loved. And these books, the Grisha books, were written before those books, and they're like not quite prequels, but they're like set in the same universe and give some background to Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, so I read the Grisha books. Like I said in my January video, the Grisha books aren't as good as the subsequent books, Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, but they are pretty good fantasy books. I gave them both 4 stars on Goodreads. I did actually like the second and third one maybe a little bit more than the first one because they introduced some of my favorite characters. They introduced Sturmhound? He's a pirate, he's really cool, and 2 members of his crew, Tolia and Tamar, who I love dearly. They are definitely my favorite characters in those books. They all come in the second book and are also in the third book. So, more characters come, the plot is really cool, the ending is pretty satisfying. Like, they are quite good books, especially if you like sort of really cool, well thought out fantasy worlds written by a really good author. And then after you read the Grisha books, go read Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, which are my absolute favorite books. I mean, maybe not my favorite books ever, but they're up there. They're in my list of top favorite books ever. They're very good. So yeah, I read number 2 and 3 in the Grisha trilogy. They were quite good. And then I read a short story collection called Juliet Was a Surprise. So insert cover here. This is a collection of literary short stories. It's actually written by one of my profs at my university. I've heard him talk about it. I've had him as a teacher. His name is Gaston. And he writes short stories, as do most of my profs in the writing program. I've heard him mention it, I heard him, I think, do some readings from it, so I wanted to read it because it sounded cool, and I read it, and they were very good short stories. I know a lot of people aren't into reading short stories, like people tend to prefer novels, and I am also one of those people. In general, I read a lot more novels than short stories. But as I've gone through this writing program at my university, we write a lot of short stories, and I've gained an appreciation for short stories, and this collection was really good. They were all a very good length to just sort of read in one sitting at a time. They weren't too long. They were really interesting. They were some of them were really weird, very psychological, not fantasy ever, but yeah, a lot of weird psychological stuff. Like, I think the sort of running thread in them was that these people, all the narrators or the main characters in each short story, aren't quite reliable narrators. They aren't quite perceiving the world the way it truly is, which is a super interesting point of view to read stories from. One of them is about the titular Juliet Was a Surprise. That's from a story about a guy who chops down a tree onto a person's house because it's very hard to explain. You know, explaining any of the stories would kind of give away the stories, and a lot of what makes them interesting is you're like not sure what's going on. But yeah, if you like short stories or you want to give short stories a try, because you haven't read a lot of more literary short stories, I would suggest these. They are literary, but they're not incomprehensible. They're not like hard to get into. Like, some literary stories are so dense that you're like, oh man, like where do I even start? And you have to like sit and think about them for hours. Like, these do make you think and they're really interesting, but they are not hard to get into. They're very interesting. Like I said, they're quite short. They were just really good. And I know the prof, so I can vote for him. He's a great teacher and a great writer. So yeah, Juliet Was a Surprise. I also give it 4 stars on Goodreads. It's very good. I like short stories. I like these short stories. Would recommend. So yeah, those are the 3 books I read in February. All good, all would recommend, all on my Goodreads, which I'll put the link to my Goodreads in the description if you want to be friends with me, and also set yourself a goal for how many books you want to read this year, and also you can see what books I'm reading. Also, I'm keeping a count of how many books I read per month. So last month it was, well, January was 2 out of 52, now it's at 5 out of 52. So hopefully by the end of the year, that'll be 52 out of 52. So thanks for watching. I'm going to do another one of these at the end of March for the books that I read in March, and then I'm going to do one every month until the end of 2017 and maybe into 2018, who knows. If you have read the Grisha trilogy, or if you've read Juliet Was a Surprise, it's a small Canadian publication, so it seems unlikely, but if you have, let me know. And if you haven't, then you should go read these books and tell me what you think of them. So let me know that in the comments, and you can like this video and also subscribe. I make videos about Homestuck and video games and my life and art and all kinds of stuff. So thanks for watching, and look forward to more book recommendations at the end of March.